The Galactic Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, enslaved countless species, and crushed every rebellion that dared to rise. To them, war was routine, and dominance was their birthright. They saw themselves as rulers of the galaxy, unmatched, undefeatable, and absolute. Then, they made their first mistake. They attacked a small, insignificant human colony on the edge of known space. The sky above Nova Prime was filled with light as the Empire's warships arrived in formation. Their sleek, black hulls reflected the twin suns, creating a terrifying sight for the settlers below. The people of Nova Prime had no military defenses, only research stations, farms, and trade posts. They had never known war. Aboard the lead Imperial destroyer, Commander Vale Norris watched the planet's surface with a smirk. He had been given a simple mission: subdue the humans and take what is valuable. The Empire saw them as nothing more than stubborn primitives. The Empire had heard of humanity before. Some spoke of their intelligence and adaptability, but they had no great fleets, no powerful armies. They were weak, and the Empire crushed the weak. A transmission was sent to the colony. A human man appeared on the view screen, his face calm but firm. His name was Dr. Ilias Carter, a scientist and the colony's leader. "This is Nova Prime," Carter said. "We are a peaceful colony. We have no weapons, no soldiers. We mean no harm." Vale Norris laughed. "Then surrender. Your planet is now a part of the Galactic Empire." Carter shook his head. "We are independent. We belong to no empire." Val's smirk faded. "Then you belong to history." He turned to his crew. "Fire at will." The first wave of plasma blasts rained down on Nova Prime, tearing through buildings and igniting massive fires. Thousands of innocent people screamed as their homes collapsed. The Empire's forces landed soon after, rounding up survivors, executing resistors, and looting everything of value. Dr. Carter watched in horror as his people were slaughtered. He knew there was no escape, no mercy. He was taken to the Imperial commander, forced to his knees in front of Vale Norris. "You should have surrendered," Vale said, drawing his energy pistol. "Humans always think they're special. But to us, you're just insects." Carter met his gaze. "You just made a mistake," he whispered. Vale raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what mistake is that?" Carter smiled, even as the barrel of the gun pressed against his forehead. "You don't understand what you've done." Vale pulled the trigger. The leader of Nova Prime fell lifeless to the ground. The last human transmission was sent in that moment, a simple distress signal, bouncing through the dark void of space, and Earth received it. Aboard the UEN Retribution, an advanced battleship patrolling the outer colonies, Admiral Jonathan Hale read the message in silence. Around him, his officers waited for his orders, their faces grim. The distress call was short, but the words sent a chill through everyone who heard them. "This is Nova Prime. The Empire has come. They have taken everything. There is no hope. If anyone is out there, remember us." The room was silent. Then one of the officers whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" Admiral Hale closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and stood. "Prepare the fleet." The officers looked at him, stunned. "But sir, Earth hasn't declared war." Hale's voice was calm, but there was fire in his eyes. "They just did." The Galactic Empire had made its first mistake. They had underestimated humanity. For centuries, the Empire had expanded without challenge. They had seen themselves as the dominant force of the galaxy, believing no one could stand against them. But they had never faced Earth. Deep in the Sol system, United Earth Military Command, UEMC, a darkened war room was filled with the highest-ranking officials of Earth's military. A massive holographic display flickered in the center, showing a looping transmission, the last desperate message from Nova Prime. The room was silent, but the air was heavy with anger. The president of the United Earth Alliance, Eleanor Graves, turned to her military advisors. "How many survivors?" she asked, her voice sharp. The intelligence officer, General Marcus Reed, swallowed hard before responding. "We don't know. Based on the distress call and the satellite data, the colony has been completely destroyed." A murmur of disbelief spread across the room. Nova Prime wasn't a military base. It wasn't a threat. It was a peaceful colony, a research outpost, and the Empire had wiped it out without hesitation. Admiral Jonathan Hale stepped forward. His jaw was clenched, his hands tight behind his back. He had seen war before, but this was slaughter. "Madam President," Hale said firmly, "the Empire doesn't see us as equals. They see us as prey. If we don't respond, they'll do it again." President Graves nodded slowly. "And if we do respond?" Hale met her gaze. "Then they learn a lesson they will never forget." The room went silent again. The decision had to be made. Would Earth go to war? There was no hesitation. President Graves turned to her officers and spoke 2 words: "Deploy everything." The arrival. 3 weeks later, on the edge of Imperial space, the first signs of Earth's wrath appeared. The Empire's border patrol fleets were scanning the void, unaware of what was coming. They had heard about the destruction of Nova Prime, but they didn't care. It was just another conquest, another victory for the Empire. Then their scanners detected something strange: an incoming fleet. At first, they thought it was a small retaliation force, a few ships, maybe an Earth diplomatic vessel demanding justice. But they were wrong. The United Earth Navy had arrived. Thousands of warships, each more advanced than anything the Empire had ever seen. The Retribution-class dreadnoughts, capable of destroying entire fleets in minutes. The Titan-class carriers, launching wave after wave of advanced fighter squadrons. The Valkyrie-class cruisers, designed for rapid planetary assaults. Earth had not come to negotiate. They had come for war. The Empire's border commander, High Admiral Xalvan, watched in horror as the human fleet emerged from the darkness. His communications officers scrambled to send warnings to the Imperial High Command. "Sir, their numbers, they." Before the officer could finish, the first human attack wave was launched. Missiles, plasma cannons, kinetic railguns, a symphony of destruction erupted. The Empire's border fleets, once confident in their superiority, were torn apart in minutes. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's forces were running. High Admiral Xalvan stared at his screen, watching his fleet being annihilated. He had heard whispers about humanity, rumors that they were survivors, warriors, innovators. But now he knew the truth. Humanity wasn't just another species. They were the storm. And the storm had arrived. The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for millennia. Countless species had fallen before them, submitting to their overwhelming might. But never before had they faced an enemy like humanity. Now, as the United Earth Navy carved through their defenses like a blade through soft flesh, fear spread across the Imperial High Command. Imperial War Council, throne world of Zathar Quinn. In the heart of the Empire, beneath the towering golden spires of the capital city, the Supreme War Council convened in a grand chamber. High-ranking officials, admirals, and strategists filled the room, their expressions grim. Holograms of burning Imperial ships flickered before them. One of the generals, Lord Admiral Verax, slammed his fist onto the table. "This is impossible. We crushed their colony like insects, and now their fleet is stronger than anything we've ever seen." How? Silence. No one had an answer. The Empire had assumed Earth was weak, primitive. Now they were learning how wrong they were. A blue-skinned Xendarian strategist, one of the Empire's top analysts, finally spoke. His voice was trembling. "They are different," he admitted. "They fight without hesitation. They use strategy we've never encountered. Their technology is..." Enough. A booming voice silenced the room. The Emperor himself, Tsar Thul the Conqueror, sat on his massive throne, his golden robes flowing like liquid fire. His red, reptilian eyes glowed with fury. "You are all cowards," he hissed. "You think a species that has never fought in a galactic war can best the Empire? Preposterous." Lord Admiral Varak stepped forward, bowing his head. "Sire, they have already broken through our first defensive lines. If we do not act now, we will act." Zar Thul's voice was cold. He turned to a shadowed figure standing silently in the corner of the chamber. "Release the Harbingers." The room fell into dead silence. Even the most battle-hardened officers looked uneasy. The Harbingers were the Empire's most feared weapon. Genetically engineered monstrosities, bred for a single purpose: total annihilation. They had been unleashed only twice in history. Both times, entire civilizations had been erased. Now they would be sent after humanity. Meanwhile, Earth's assault fleet, aboard the UES Retribution, the flagship of the United Earth Navy, Admiral Jonathan Hale stood on the command deck, his gaze locked on the massive view screen before him. The battle had been swift. The Empire's first line of defense had crumbled. But Hale knew better than to celebrate early. The real war was just beginning. "Status report," he ordered. His second-in-command, Commander Elise Monroe, scanned her display. "We've secured 3 of their outposts, destroyed 2 fleet command stations. Our forces are pushing toward the inner territories." Hale nodded. So far, everything was going according to plan. But then, a red alert blared across the bridge. "Sir, incoming warp signatures detected. Imperial reinforcements, multiple capital-class vessels." Hale's eyes narrowed. The Empire was making its next move. But as the readings came in, something didn't make sense. These weren't ordinary ships. Their energy signatures were wrong, unstable. Monroe's voice dropped. "Sir, I think they just unleashed something else." Hale exhaled sharply. The real fight was about to begin. The vastness of space was silent, but the tension aboard the UES Retribution was deafening. The entire fleet had just received the new data. Something was coming. And it wasn't just another Imperial fleet. Imperial War Fleet. Edge of Zathar Quinn's system. Admiral Hale's eyes stayed locked on the main view screen. The Imperial reinforcements had arrived, but they weren't like any ships humanity had faced before. The energy readings were erratic. Something unnatural pulsed from within their hulls. Monroe's voice was low, tense. "Sir, these aren't warships." Hale frowned. "Then what the hell are they?" A holographic image flickered on screen, showing strange organic-looking pods attached to the hulls of the Imperial vessels. And then they opened. The Harbingers are unleashed. Across the battlefield, massive creatures emerged from the ships. They were tall, skeletal, and covered in black exoskeletons, their glowing red eyes burning like fire. Some had razor-sharp claws that could tear through steel. Others moved with unnatural speed, their elongated limbs twisting in ways that defied physics. They didn't need ships. They launched themselves through space, propelled by sheer force, heading straight for the human fleet. Hale's stomach tightened. "Monroe, tell me I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing." Monroe's face was pale. "Sir, I think they just dropped their war beasts on us." Hale turned to the bridge crew. "All ships, open fire. Don't let those things reach us." The battle begins. The first wave of Harbingers smashed into the human fleet, ripping apart smaller escort ships with terrifying precision. The UES Vanguard, one of Earth's heavy destroyers, unleashed a barrage of railgun fire. Several Harbingers were obliterated mid-flight. But more kept coming. On board the UES Nightfall, a squad of Terran shock troopers prepared for the worst. Their commander, Sergeant Logan Reyes, loaded his plasma rifle and turned to his team. "All right, listen up. These freaks are coming in hot. Hold the line, no matter what." The ship's hull shook violently as Harbingers breached its outer defenses. Within seconds, the creatures were inside, tearing through corridors, their inhuman screeches echoing through the ship. Reyes took a deep breath. Let's show these monsters what humanity is made of. And then, the battle truly began. The battle had turned into a nightmare. The Harbingers, those monstrous creations of the Empire, were ripping through human ships like paper. The fleet was holding, barely. On the UES Nightfall, Sergeant Logan Rice and his squad were locked in brutal combat. Plasma bolts filled the air, but the creatures wouldn't die easily. One of the beasts lunged at Private Carter, its razor-sharp claws slicing through his armor. Carter screamed as he was lifted into the air. Then the creature snapped him in half. Rice gritted his teeth. No time for fear, no time for mercy. Keep firing, he roared. The Harbinger's black exoskeleton cracked under concentrated plasma fire, but even wounded, it kept moving. Monsters. But then, a new signal flashed on Rice's HUD. All forces, fall back. Earth's final response is coming. Above the battlefield, the arrival. Admiral Hale stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as his fleet struggled against the Empire's nightmare creatures. They were losing. Then, his second-in-command, Monroe, gasped. "Sir, it's here." Hale turned to the view screen, and his breath caught in his throat. A tear in space opened behind the human fleet. From it emerged a behemoth unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The UES Titan, Earth's largest, most powerful warship, had arrived. With it came the rest of Earth's hidden fleet, ships so massive, so advanced, that the Imperial commanders gasped in horror at their readings. This was not a counterattack. This was extinction. The Empire's mistake, Earth's answer. The UES Titan charged its main weapon, a planet cracker cannon, designed for one purpose only: annihilation. The Imperial flagship tried to flee. It never got the chance. A single shot from the Titan tore through space, and in an instant, half the Imperial fleet was gone. Hale clenched his fists. All ships, unleash hell. And hell was unleashed. The Galactic Empire had ruled for 1,000 years. It had crushed rebellions, wiped out entire species, and bent planets to its will. But today, it faced humanity's wrath. The UES Titan led the charge, its planet cracker cannon firing again. A single blast erased an entire Imperial battle station. The Empire's remaining admirals screamed for a retreat, but there was nowhere left to run. On the Imperial homeworld, panic and betrayal. Emperor Vasher stood in his war chamber, watching the horror unfold on the holoscreens. Humanity had done the unthinkable. His elite fleets shattered. His war factories burning. His generals terrified. This is impossible," he whispered. A voice behind him spoke. "No, Emperor, this is justice." Vasher spun around, his golden robe swirling. Standing in the chamber were his own high counselors, weapons drawn. "Your arrogance led us here," one of them spat. "You underestimated them." Before Vasher could respond, the gunfire began. The final strike, Earth's vengeance. High above the Imperial homeworld, Admiral Hale gave the final order. "All ships, fire." The sky lit up as Earth's fleet rained fire and destruction upon the Empire's capital. Towers crumbled. Cities burned. The Imperial palace fell. Humanity had won. But they weren't finished yet. A single message was broadcast across the galaxy. "This is Earth. The Empire is dead. Anyone who dares threaten humanity will meet the same fate." The galaxy had been warned. The Galactic Empire was no more. The once mighty throne world of Zephyr 7 lay in ruins, its towering spires reduced to smoking rubble. The Imperial fleets had been shattered, their warships drifting lifelessly in the void. Across the galaxy, systems that had once trembled under the Empire's rule now rejoiced at its fall. But the war wasn't over yet. Earth's message to the stars. A massive holographic transmission was sent to every known civilization. The image of Admiral Hale appeared, his expression calm but firm. "To all sentient species of the galaxy, The empire is gone. Humanity did not seek this war, but we ended it. Let this be a lesson. We do not conquer. We do not oppress. But if you threaten our kind, we will strike back with a fury beyond your imagination. The message echoed across the stars, and for the first time in history, the galaxy listened. The last stand of the Emperor. Deep inside a hidden bunker on the distant world of Vokturnine, the former Emperor Vashar had survived. His once proud robes were tattered, his golden crown now a mockery of the power he once held. He glared at the transmission. Humans. How had they done this? His remaining warlords, barely a handful, awaited his command. We must rebuild, he snarled. Gather what's left of the fleet. We will take back what's ours. But before he could say another word, a shadow loomed over him. The doors burst open. A squad of Earth's elite soldiers stormed in, their weapons trained on him. Vashar, one of them said, stepping forward. Your empire is finished. Surrender or die. The Emperor reached for his blade. A single shot rang out. Vashar's reign ended in an instant. A new galactic order. With the Empire's fall, chaos threatened to spread, but humanity did not allow it. Instead of ruling, Earth helped rebuild. Former imperial worlds were freed, and for the first time, the galaxy saw something greater than war. Hope. The Terran Accord was formed, a coalition of worlds, led not by force, but by unity. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the species that had once been underestimated, no longer seen as weak, no longer just another race among the stars. They were now the guardians of peace, and if anyone dared to challenge them again, they knew exactly what would happen.